Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Omniverse of Nick and the finale to the Mcqueen Walking Dead tale. I'm your host, Nick. And like always, before we get into the episode, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick channel, and comment your favorite part or parts of ongoing or past stories, as well as future recommendations for what-ifs and general discussion you might get to see on the channel in the future. This is going to be a pretty revved up finale, if you get what I mean. So, you're not going to want to miss out on the tale ending with Mcqueen getting home. Rick and Mcqueen, as well as everyone else, is on the journey, the impossible journey, the very out there journey.
And impossibly impossible. Not to mention, possibly impossible.
Journey to get Mcqueen home, since it seems like there's no way in this world they'd be able to do that. But Mercer, the Commonwealth, every single person, including Rick himself, is not going to break the promise that Rick made to Mcqueen all those years ago. Soon, after they begin their journey, they find the Clark family, as well as Daniel and Skidmark, and including them, we find Dwight, Sherry, Tina, Sadiq, and those people who joined Fear, remember that? And after a long and thorough explanation, the Clarks and everyone there are more than happy to help out Rick and everybody else. So we're kind of getting a what if Madison's family joined Rick twist here, ain't we? Then they make their way to France, and they come across the group of Caudron and all the people there, and the nest and all that, with the variant walkers and everything. But they're not so easy to persuade. And the Commonwealth have to take them all down, but it's literally 300 to 1 in terms of the Commonwealth, Mcqueen, and everybody else. They're wiped out instantly, the France people. So, yeah. Then they make their way to New York City. And here's a big change here, because the Croat was killed by Shane. So that means that there's less to deal with here, kind of. We still have the Dama, or Dama, whatever the frick you want to call her, and that whole army and what was going on there, and her people. But, again, 300 to 1. She and her army are literally no contest. So, they are dealt with just as swiftly. And, with that, the Commonwealth and everybody prepare to head onward, scouting every single terrain, every place, every mark on the map, until they come across the final boss.
Not that. That.
Yeah, the CRM being the final boss, LOL. Anyway, the CRM are instantly on guard with this huge army coming towards them, and a car. A moving, talking car. Rick says they don't want any trouble. They just want to speak to the leader of this place. And soon enough, after much talking persuasion and forceful persuasion, Rick is able to come face to face with General Beale and has a long and thorough conversation about Mcqueen, about their role, about what they've done, and about how much they, seeing this as the most powerful military on the planet, Rick can say, hopefully, that Beale should think the way he does and not want to waste this kind of potential, even if it's to mainly get his friend home. Beale thinks about this, and he refuses. All of this seems just like some fairy tale product, even though they've seen the car. And the safety and security has been broken of the CRM, which means that in the case of what they're doing here, They're not allowed to leave here alive. Far too many people, far too many risks. They've killed and conquered communities for much less, for becoming threats. And that's all Rick needed to hear. And with that, Rick Mcqueen and all the Commonwealth and everything, they take the CRM down. And that includes Dawn and Milton, who they would have never known. So, kind of a lowbrow finish for them, but hey, what else could I do? With this, Rick has the Commonwealth, the CRM, everyone he's been with so far, including Mcqueen, and the Clarks, and that whole family and stuff. So, with that, and with everybody's help, they are able to dig into Mcqueen and give him every single upgrade possible. This is the test of a lifetime. Every single person involved works on Mcqueen. His speed, his design, his mechanics, everything. This is the ultimate makeover for Mcqueen. And by the end of it, they are able to get his speed, and I'm not even joking with you, 200,000 miles per hour. Now, for like the probably over 50% of you that just process that in your heads, it's unbelievable, right? No car in the entirety of the Cars universe could go that fast. But, sad to say, it's not enough. The speed factor might be a lot, and it could very well prove lightning fast enough to, I don't know, circulate a portal and, like, maybe be able to just rush through. And Mcqueen thinks about this as, like, he's like, revving all left, right, and centers. He's getting all excited. But every single person involved, mainly Mercer and then Rick, tells him, no, do not do anything. Because just because he is faster now, what if he revs himself so much and either shakes himself up so much that he explodes on impact, or just, kills himself, or he goes through a different kind of portal and it's not regulated enough, he could die. And even if he does get the portal back home with his speed alone, he could still end up killing himself or, like, collapse the universe on top of each other. They don't know. Universal creation's never, like, portal creation's never been something that they've done. But the Commonwealth and the CRM have a solution. A treadmill. Now, this is no ordinary treadmill. This is a treadmill in The Walking Dead, based to be like the one that Lightning was on in the training center in Cars 3. But that never happened because Lightning was sucked into The Walking Dead before that happened. So, that means that this would be a first for Lightning, and it obviously wouldn't be the exact same treadmill, but Mercer would talk to him about it and say that every single person, especially the two big armies of the Commonwealth and the CRM, have worked on this the most that they've worked on anything, kind of including Mcqueen himself. The treadmill here is based to keep him able to go the top speed that he's able to, and they will be able to regulate his home portal, hopefully, safely. If they regulate the speed that he was going whenever he crashed, or faster, they should be able to get that portal up even faster than when he arrived here in the first place. But Lightning is still unsure about this, and is like, what if I accidentally break the treadmill or go off of it? The same thing will happen. And Mercer, it's not likely that that would happen if Lightning stayed on the treadmill, but just in case, they have one more backup plan. And Mercer gets a hard coil of wire red rope and ties it around the back end of Lightning. and he tells Lightning this should secure him. This rope was specifically as another backup plan for this procedure, because he can honor a promise that Rick made, because Mercer was just that good, you know? So he would obviously have seen to any kind of backup plan he could help out with, especially with the commandants of the Army of the Commonwealth and the partnership of the CRM. So this should work out in their favor. Lightning is still unsure, but Rick tells him, "You can't be unsure. From day one, when I rescued you, you became and are the best working piece of equipment and technology and car that I have ever met in my life. And you're more than just a piece of technology or a car. You're my friend. The one main friend that I've had since the beginning. And if there is anything that you can do, it's get you home with this." And he tells Mcqueen to go for it. But Glenn is another one who's unsure about this, and it could either turn out very badly for Mcqueen or put them all in danger. But with Mercer and Eugene even speaking up about like possible backups in case it does go wrong, or like figuring it out if something does happen, that's all that anybody needed to hear, the majority vote. So Rick yells to Mcqueen at the top of his lungs to do it. Get this done. And Mcqueen, he feels like that would be a nice callback to Doc Hudson cheering him on at the end of the first movie. So he doesn't need told twice. Mcqueen revs his engine, and instantly he goes to 100 miles, because the speed meter on the treadmill and his own showing past 100 already, and it's like 2 seconds in, and this surprises everybody. He is so light with the speed. Well, they tell him to slightly slow down, but still good enough accelerate. And then 500. Then it goes to 1,000. But everyone knows they're not seeing anything yet, and he's still on the thing. Everything's going good, but they tell him to go faster because this isn't working and they need to do it faster. They didn't upgrade him to 200,000 for nothing. So Lightning again doesn't need told twice, and he revs his engine even harder. And with that, it reaches 10,000. And he only continues to go faster. The speed meter gets to 50,000. And while everyone else is paying attention to the speed, Daryl and Carol see something forming in the area in front of them. A streak of blue lightning and an outline of a blue circle begins to form, but it's very, 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 very small. So it's not noticeable to everyone yet, but they notice it because we all know how smart Daryl and Carol were. They got their freaking own spin-off, for Christ's sake. Meanwhile, at the track of where Lightning last was, it's empty. Everyone had thought Mcqueen just vanished or died. So everyone sadly mourned his loss and went home. The people of Radiator Springs took it the worst, Sally and Mater being the main two. Now, they didn't know what to do. They resumed their lives, but they just couldn't. They couldn't live with the fact that Lightning had vanished without a trace, just left them, or possibly died. And with that, they've just tried to move on until they see something right in front of them. And a few of the townspeople gather around. A streak of blue lightning strikes down in the area in front of them. But it doesn't seem to hurt them, or it doesn't seem like there's a storm. Meanwhile, in Rick's world, Rick yells to Mcqueen with all his might, saying, "Go the fastest you've ever gone! Let this work. And lightning reaches 100,000 miles per hour. And with one final push, one final touch, one final voice from everybody, lightning reaches 200,000 miles per hour. And with that, the streaks of blue lightning strike all around them. But it doesn't destroy anything, and it doesn't destroy any of them. Instead, it creates something, and the lightning begins to circulate and form in one specific area, right in front of the treadmill where Mcqueen's at. And soon enough, a blue portal forms and makes itself known right in front of them. After that, the Commonwealth, the CRM, and everybody around has to gather and try and figure stuff out, make calculations, do that stuff to make sure that the portal stays for as long as it can, if this truly is the portal to send Mcqueen home. Mercer walks up to Mcqueen and he unlatches Mcqueen from the treadmill. And then he asks him to go right near the portal and asks him if that is his home. Mcqueen gets a little close and gets a good long look. And sure enough, it is. It is his home. He rubs all the way around the entire place. He's so happy. He can finally go home. It has been 7 years since he had been home. Everyone must have thought he was dead. Wait until they see him now. He is so happy right now. But then he has a moment of realization, and tears begin to form in his eyes. He's leaving Rick and everybody here. He tells them all that he could not thank them enough for everything that they've done. Rick, Glenn, Dale, everybody who helped him, even the ones who aren't here anymore. He only wishes that more of them could have been here to see this moment, especially Rick's late wife, Lori, and says that he will never, ever forget what they did for him, how they changed him, how they fixed him, how they, really made him something better than any version of him he could ever have imagined. And he turns to show them all the newest and last sticker that he had gotten. The gold python from Rick was put as a sticker right next to his lightning bolt. And that would be the ultimate memory of who saved him so long ago. And he begins to turn and go into the portal to head home for the last time. But from behind him, Lightning hears a voice telling him to wait. And it's Rick, who steps up to Mcqueen and with tears in his eyes. Before he can say anything, he just looks down with more tears forming. This is obviously a very, very strong emotional moment for Rick. He saved him. It's his friend, and he was Lightning's guardian, friend, protector. But finally, Rick has the motivation to speak and says that he is not going to miss Lightning because he's going with him. And every single person just surprise fits everybody. Morgan, Daryl, Jesse, Carl, and Glenn. Every single one of them, everywhere in the area is like, what? And Rick should have known that this was coming. And he's still sticking to his resolve. And he decides to tell everybody what he means by this. From day one, after he got out of that hospital, he thought that he would never find his family. He thought that he was just going to be alone. He didn't know about the world until Morgan told him about it. And he had to traverse through just to get to Atlanta to try and find his family. But when he found Mcqueen and he took him in, it didn't just help that he was going to fix him and make him a better version of himself and, help to not only fix their world, but eventually his too. It also changed a part of who himself was. It changed him. And he can't just let that go. They have done so much here. They've pretty much ruled and fixed this world. So, for Rick to leave, it's not like it's going to result in something truly awful. And Rick knows this, and he looks at everybody. He does not expect this to be the end of him being in this world, but he refuses to let the car that he fixed, he helped, go away like that. He wants to go with, and he wants to see the world for himself. He wants to see a world outside of their own, free from all of this destruction. He wants to experiment with it and get to feel something else, especially for his friend. For now, this is goodbye. He says goodbye to Morgan, to Daryl, to Glenn, to Sam, to Ron, to Judith, to Carl, and to Jesse and himself's kid, Thunder, who still has the lightning bolt tattoo on his face, and who is the direct kid named after a part of lightning. So, yeah. Then he talks to Jesse. Jesse is still very apprehensive and getting very emotional about this, and asks Rick if she and her kids, their kids, will ever see him again. And Rick says, like the promise that he made to Lightning to get him home, he swears to everybody and to her, his love, this, he will come back. And this world is free except of walkers, so they have nothing to worry about. He will return one day, be it from this world making him come back, or Lightning finding out a way to make himself come back with Rick the other way. He will come back, but this is goodbye for now. And after that, the portal begins to dissipate, so they know they don't have long. Rick walks alongside Lightning, and they both go into the portal with one last tearful goodbye, into Radiator Springs. And the portal closes from both ends. When everybody in Radiator Springs gathered around and saw that this portal that formed, the lightning and everything formed, Lightning McQueen coming through a portal, they could not believe what they were seeing. Lightning is alive, looking better than ever. And they are so busy congratulating the fact that Lightning is alive and looking so much different and better than any version of him that they had ever seen, that they get terrified when they see Rick. Because, Lightning was the first car to see a human. But Lightning explains every single thing that happened since that day on that track, and Rick saving his life, being to another world, and finally getting home to everyone he loved. And they are all amazed. So much so, they allow Rick to be in Radiator Springs with McQueen and all of them. Because, look, Rick saved McQueen's life. So for them not to let him in after all this, that would have been a major plot twist. So Rick gets to be with Lightning, his friend, in Radiator Springs and live peacefully. Meanwhile, in France, of the Cars world, a green portal appears, and a man steps out of it. A very, quote-unquote, familiar man. A man with a safari hat and a shotgun pelted to one of his arms. And so the story of Rick Grimes saving Lightning McQueen and finding him instead of the horse is seemingly finished. And this, the end of the story, is not actually the end. Sort of like The Ones Who Live for The Walking Dead. This, at the end, whenever I thought of this and thought of the beginning and ending sequences for the story, which, by this point, I think that every single one of you will agree that this goes down as, on this channel, the best story of all time. The beginning, I really put a lot of attention in to introducing Mcqueen into The Walking Dead, but the ending, as I got into the middle section and got near the ending, I finally realized that the beginning and ending, especially the ending, would be the two biggest parts of the entire story. And this, the ending sequence, if it wasn't plainly freaking obvious, is not the end. This is the true entrance, like some other what if YouTubers, into me making my what if stories a true Omniverse connected. Now keep in mind, it's not going to be every single one of them, especially not now, but this is the true entrance into my stories being connected in some way, shape, or form. Someone joked and said that this was like Nick's cinematic universe, and they're right in a way. But I more or less want to keep it in a way that it's like portal creation and stuff like that. Now, if you obviously got the twist on who this specific mystery character was at the ending sequence with the green portal, then it should be no big surprise that I kind of just threw in a character from a what if that no portal creation was needed. But it was more or less a teaser, but I will be teasing more multiverse stories and teasing the true Omniverse of Nick, which by the time you're watching this, I waited until now to change the picture of my channel. Now you'll notice it's Rick and Goku like one of my old pictures, but it's the Omniverse picture in the background instead of space to truly show. I figured just go with the same picture, but truly show that it's the Omniverse of Nick. I could have kept the Troy picture, but I really thought that it was needed that I put two true omniversal characters in. Now, even though I won't be teasing more multiverse stories for a while, whenever I get into more characters and I actually connect them into a universe, you might be asking, why didn't you do this with John Cena, Jason Voorhees, or Jigsaw? Number one, many of them could have fit into that world literally by nature. Number two, I literally did not think that far at the time. I wasn't like that smart into thinking of multiverse stuff at the time. And I really did not know where my channel would go at that point in time. But whenever I started watching other stuff and getting more in-depth with my what if creation, I realized that so much more could be done here. And once I got into the Lightning McQueen story and I got that beginning sequence, that was truly the real putting on point, especially near the middle of Omniverse creation, hence the Omniverse of Nick, because I really think that it will fit. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Won't it eventually get confusing and just become distorted and basically just collapse in on itself if you're really going to combine multiple universes into one, like the MCU, especially what they did and where it's gone now? You're right on a level, but I'm not going to do what the MCU did and connect all the universes at once. If I do that and make some sort of endgame or something, because I'm not going to rip off of what they did, not to get in trouble, I'm going to actually do about it smart and go about actual portal creation, like I did with the McQueen story, because it was really the only way I could start up. If I didn't even plan on doing that. It was literally just going to be a story about how McQueen goes. But when I thought about the portal creation at the beginning and end sequences, I'm like, there's got to be more to this to make it, like, bigger. And not just from watching other what if YouTubers, but doing that segment really got me thinking about that. And I guarantee you guys will definitely have agreed with the results as to how the story played out and how the beginning and end tied in to an omniverse of multiple stories conversing in. And I'm not just going to connect my what if stories. I plan to go into canon stories as well. Now, how I'm going to go about what if stories and canon stories with multiple branches of franchises is not known at this time, because it's really depending. But this is not the last you will see of the Rick and Mcqueen story or the other Walking Dead people in that world, along with the mystery character who showed up. As I get into other stories that focus on portal creation and make it logical as to how I did the Mcqueen story, that's whenever I'm going to actually get back to this branch and tease more of what has happened since we last touched on it. So you will not see this for quite some time, like a significant amount of time. And as it branches more and more and more and gets bigger, and we get close to, and this will be a long time from now, the end of What Ifs here on the channel, is when you will see not an endgame sort of deal, because once again, don't want to get in trouble, you will see basically what the video will be called, and it will be like a really long movie, possibly like near to, if not just a tiny bit longer to avoid the YouTube time limit. Basically, I planned on calling it the Omniverse of Nick's What If Memoir. So it will basically tie into the true Omniverse of Nick scale and really show what the channel went through and what I branched it. But like I said, I'm going to keep to the original scale of what ifs that don't involve portal creation. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. What about Dragon Ball and their timelines and the MCU and when you get into that stuff? True, I could involve that in that way, but unless the story is so big that it requires that, or it is on a scale that I need to include it in that massive scale like I did with this story, I'm just going to stick to the original scale and go on to that path. But we'll definitely see, because you never know until you start a story, basically. But I truly 110% hope that you guys enjoyed the story for what it's worth and are definitely psyched for more stories and updates in the future as to what this story and future updates and everything will bring. Because I, for one, I never did this before. But once I got to the part where Mcqueen was saying farewell to Rick and to everybody in the Walking Dead world, I actually teared up a little. And now that's the first time that, besides excitement, I showed true emotion. Because it really stuck deep with me, even though I was trying to get the finale out of the way, and it took much longer than I thought it would, especially getting near that part. It might have seemed like I rushed points, but it actually took longer than I thought to get many of the parts out of the way. But once I got to that part, it really hit home with me and actually made me tear up a little, just because of how much feeling and passion I put into that part of the story and the ending sequence. Overall, I truly hope that you guys enjoyed this, because I, for one, think that this story and what will come after will be the best story and franchise for the Omniverse of Nick. With that, the next story, which will be a one-parter, is What If Abraham Lincoln Didn't Get Assassinated? And that will be the closure to the first batch of What Ifs on the batch that I showed you guys some time ago. And then will be the second batch and onward, as I said, and what I've said about the scheduling and the format of the What Ifs, that will still continue as normal, and you will not see this certain franchise or story thing until deep portal creation and story stuff like that is brought into fruition. Which, like I said, unless it's major enough to include, you won't be seeing for some time, and we will skip and go right back to the usual format of What Ifs, which you guys definitely are okay with, considering how many of the What Ifs have gone on the channel before I introduced this factor. But I definitely think that this will boost your guys'
opinions on what this channel has become and what it will become. And honestly, I never thought that I would do something like this, but I definitely think that not only does it show how much more different that I am than what if YouTubers before, but it shows that I'm able to bring ideas to the table that others have, but in a much different way, so pretty much what I just said. Either way, that's all I have to say. I really, really from the bottom of my heart hope that you guys enjoyed the story, because I really enjoyed making this story, especially the beginning and end. And with that, I'll see you guys soon for the one-parter Abraham Lincoln. Further updates and stuff will be posted, and I really, really hope that you guys enjoy the movie, which will come out soon. See ya!